Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. One of the all-time greatest Marvel villains, Kang the Conqueror, is coming to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But maybe Kang has already appeared in the MCU in Loki.
Go ahead.
So far, every episode has hinted at the arrival of Kang. In fact, it's possible that he is the actual real villain of the show. So we're going to explain how Kang, and not the Timekeepers, could be the one calling the shots at the TVA. And all of this has a massive connection to a teeny tiny place, the Quantum Realm.
I have come from the 41st century, traveling to this backwater time period for one simple reason: to eliminate you from the timeline.
The big reveal from episode 3 is that the TVA agents were not created by the Timekeepers at all.
I was told that everyone who works at the TVA was created by the Timekeepers.
That's ridiculous. They're all variants, just like us.
But the real identity of the workers is just a piece of the puzzle, which forms a very clear picture. The TVA, the Timekeepers, the Sacred Timeline, it's all a part of one giant lie. And these lies and half-truths are adding up. The TVA isn't a benevolent organization that protects reality, it's a brainwashed cult. TVA workers are kidnapped and programmed to hunt down variants, while unaware that they're actually hunting down their future co-workers.
The Timekeepers have built quite the circus. And I see the clowns are playing their parts to perfection.
And we can see this misinformation reflected with Sylvie. The TVA thinks she's an evil and dangerous variant that's threatening the timeline, but in reality, she might just be a misunderstood hero who's trying to free reality from the tyrannical rule of the Timekeepers.
When did you get so paranoid?
Oh, I guess it must have started when I spent my entire life running from the omniscient fascists you work for.
But so far, all the MCU shows have had a secret villain. In WandaVision, it was Agatha all along.
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
Plus, it was sort of Sword all along, and Mayo-Vision, and technically it was Wanda all along. Alright, well I guess everyone in WandaVision's a villain, kind of.
What?
In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sharon Carter was the secret villain, revealed to be the power broker. Not a big shocker. So, if Loki continues this trend, we are due to see another secret villain reveal. And I'm not sure I can handle it if it was Miss Minutes all along. And while the Timekeepers might be the secret villains, that seems just a little bit obvious. There are more clues that it's none other than Kang the Conqueror.
Surprise!
But before we dive into the theory, we have to give you just a quick crash course on everything you need to know about Kang. If you're familiar with him from the comics, don't worry, this won't take long.
Just give me the facts.
Just the facts.
Keep it simple.
No doubt.
Kang is a scientist from the 31st century. His era was too peaceful and boring for him, so he travels back in time for some excitement and conquest. In ancient Egypt, he became the pharaoh Rama-Tut, and then he traveled to the past, present, and future. Along the way, he adopted different identities and sort of became the Genghis Khan of time travel. With time travel and super advanced tech, he took over the entire galaxy and became Kang the Conqueror. And after that, he made time into his domain. That's the TLDR. Over the years, Kang became one of the most dangerous villains the Avengers have ever faced. Now, how does all this connect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, we might have gotten the answer way back in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
It means that you would enter a quantum realm where all concepts of time and space become irrelevant.
When Hank and Janet leave the quantum realm, we caught a glimpse of a tiny city in a bubble in the background. That city is Chronopolis, which in the comics is the time city ruled by Kang. But what is Kang City doing in the quantum realm? Well, here's a theory. The TVA actually exists inside the quantum realm, and Chronopolis is their base of operations. And Kang is the one behind the TVA and the Timekeepers. There are a few hints that the TVA is actually inside the quantum realm. The first hint is the obvious time travel connection. In Endgame, Tony Stark finds a way to use the quantum realm to move through time. So maybe the TVA is using a very advanced version of the time travel machine that Tony Stark created, because in the MCU, everything eventually connects to Tony Stark. Then there's how time works in the quantum realm, as explained by Scott Lang.
Time works differently in the quantum realm.
This is why 5 years for everyone was only 5 hours for him, because he was inside the quantum realm during the blip, which is sort of the exact way Mobius described how time works in the TVA.
How long have you been here?
I don't know, it's hard to say. Time passes differently here in the TVA.
Now this theory is also supported by the Infinity Stones themselves.
Even an Infinity Stone is useless here.
Somehow, in the TVA, the most powerful artifacts in the universe become useless rocks. This could be because they are in the quantum realm. In the comics, the Infinity Stones might be the most powerful artifacts in the universe, but only in that one universe. Meaning that if you take the stones outside of their respective universes, they'll be
paperweights.
The quantum realm is its own universe. So if the TVA is inside that universe, this explains why the stones don't work there. Then there's Ravonna Renslayer. In the comics, she's not part of the TVA, but she is the eternal lover of Kang.
I'll save you, my love. I'll save our entire timeline. Even if I have to conquer this time to do it.
And this departure from the comics has to be significant. Why else use Ravonna if not to tease a Kang connection? They could have made anyone the judge at the TVA. So, if the TVA isn't the quantum realm, how does this connect to Kang? Well, in the comics, there are countless versions of Kang throughout the timeline, which were created due to Kang's constant time traveling. And many of the Kangs are completely different from each other, with distinct personalities, and at times they even fight each other. So much so that there's actually a whole council of Kangs, which was created for the sole purpose of eliminating different versions of Kang from the multiverse.
Hold it. This is getting confusing.
Now, that council of Kangs is kind of key here, because it was formed by a version of Kang from the distant future named Immortus. And Immortus is actually the key to our theory.
Explain yourself.
In the comics, Kang eventually gets tired of his complicated time travel shenanigans, so he settles for making a deal with the Timekeepers. He agrees to work with the Timekeepers to protect the timeline rather than to conquer it. In exchange, they give him immortality, a 7,000-year period to rule, and they grant him control of Limbo, a place that exists outside of time. Does that sound familiar? Maybe in the MCU, Limbo is actually the quantum realm. Let me explain how this works. Back in Endgame, the Avengers created a time travel machine that uses the quantum realm. About 1,000 years later, Kang improves that tech and begins his time travel adventure. Now we'll meet that version of Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but Loki might feature a different Kang, the Immortus variant. Miss Minutes explains that the sacred timeline was created by the Timekeepers long ago to save reality from a multiversal war, and since then the timeline has been protected by the Time Variance Authority. Maybe that timeline war the TVA talked about isn't something that happened in the past, but actually in the far future. I mean, relatively speaking, of course. And maybe that timeline war was a conflict between all the different variants of Kang, because Kang sees time as his domain. So while all these Kangs were battling each other, Immortus teamed up with the Timekeepers and defeated all of his other Kang counterparts by erasing all of these other timelines. This created one timeline under the control of Immortus. And that's brilliant. Thanos tried to create the perfect universe, but Kang is billions of steps ahead by creating a whole timeline under his tyrannical control. What better way to rule all of reality than to control time itself?
Is this the greatest power in the universe?
It's possible that in the MCU, the Council of Kangs is actually the TVA, only instead of multiple Kangs, Immortus uses variants from different universes to protect his timeline and erase all the others. This could be the reason why Immortus built Chronopolis inside the quantum realm. If the tiny universe exists outside of the timeline, then no other Kang variant can erase him.
Reset charges prune the affected radius of a branched timeline, allowing time to heal all its wounds. Which, by the way, sounds like a nice way of saying disintegrate everything in its vicinity.
Now, for all we know, this could lead into Loki leading the MCU's version of Avengers Forever. That's a comic where Immortus is the villain working with the Timekeepers against humanity, and Kang ends up teaming up with the Avengers to stop his future self. That version of the Avengers consisted of heroes from various points in time. Maybe something like that will happen in this show, as Loki assembles a team of Loki variants from different universes against Immortus. Okay, I'm saying this mostly because I want to see that Hulk version of Loki on screen, but wouldn't that be awesome?
I like this.
It's unclear how Loki will end, but hopefully Team Loki will free the variants in the TVA and somehow kick Immortus out of Chronopolis, and then Mobius will finally fulfill his dream and ride a jet ski.
There was a beautiful union of form and function, which we call the jet ski, and a reasonable man cannot differ.
That's not the end of this story. In fact, this story has no end.
What?
In Norse mythology, Loki is defined by loops and cycles, death and rebirth. Maybe this show is just another loop. Even if Loki succeeds in freeing the timeline from Immortus, that would thrust the timeline into chaos.
The universe wants to break free, so it manifests chaos.
And everything we see in the show Loki is actually the origin of that future war. The time heist in Endgame creates Kang in the far future, which sets him on the path of time travel dominance, which eventually leads to him becoming Immortus. But since Kang is so embedded within the timeline, he exists in the past, present, and the future. Loki is the diverging point in time that leads to the future timeline war, which in actuality is caused by Kang himself, a war that Immortus wins and then creates a TV and then...
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Okay, I might have confused myself here. This is reminiscent of the symbol of Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail that has no beginning or end. Kind of like Terminator. John Connor sends his own father, Kyle Reese, back in time to save his mother and impregnate his mother, so John Connor will be able to send his father, Kyle Reese, back in time to save his mother. You get the idea.
Time travel!
So perhaps the MCU is stuck in a time loop, a type of chicken and the egg situation, all because of Kang's time travel destiny. And with such a reveal, Loki and Quantum Mania might only be the first step in Kang becoming the next big bad of the MCU. And yeah, this theory is pretty ambitious, but the evidence for the Kang connection can't be denied. Let's just hope we're not going to get bonered again.
You're Ralph Boner?
Boner.
Anyways, this is how we think that Kang might connect to Loki. Is this theory possible, or am I reaching? Will we see Kang in this show? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.